Welcome back to All Things Tatties. Thank you everyone for coming back, and to those who've been subscribing and liking, thank you so much. Today I'm going to be telling you about my first trimester. It's so funny because I'm talking about these stories when my son is like a year 10 months, but I really did want to share them then, and I'll continue to share the stories now, I guess. But yeah, just to get straight into it, as soon as I found out I was pregnant, I was about 4 weeks pregnant, and maybe a couple of days after that, that's when I started feeling abdominal pain in my lower right side and the fatigue. Guys, I was so sleepy. It literally was like someone was sitting on my eyelids and forcing them to shut. I was struggling. Fortunately, we were working from home, so I could, have a little snooze here and there, but also it was still a lot. I remember being in trainings at work and literally just dozing off and waking up when they'd be like, oh yeah, the poll question, and I'll just answer the poll question and go back to sleep. I was that tired. And also, I'm not the type of person who sleeps during drives. Like if someone's driving a car, I also just want to be equally as alert and checking what my surroundings look like. But during that time, I remember we drove to go visit my husband's brother, and they're like 2 hours away. I was asleep the whole time. That's just how tired I was. And yeah, that continued. Literally, that continued the whole of the pregnancy. But at around 11 days after finding out, that's when I was around 6 weeks pregnant, I started spotting. That was so scary, guys. Okay, there might be a bit of TMI, too much information for everybody. So if you're squirmish or not really interested in this type of, information, then I would suggest you look for another video for now. But yeah, guys, and I just remember during that time, I literally was on page 5 of Google just trying to find information and watching YouTube videos, and just, it was such a scary time. But it was on the Wednesday, a Wednesday after I'd found out, and it was 11 days after I'd found out. I went to the bathroom just before bed, and there it was. I was spotting, and I remember thinking, oh well, here goes. Yeah, I had already given up. I was like, yeah, that's it. And then, but I didn't want to sort of make it real by saying it with my mouth. So I actually went to the bedroom, like all's good, and I was just chilling, and my husband had no idea. I was just, yeah. Then I was sitting on the bed, then I just was quiet, and I was just staring into space. I think that's when he was like, okay, what's going on? And then I had to say something, but I had no intentions of telling him, because I felt like saying it would really equate to it being like real, and this it being, I don't know what this it was, but it was, something I was avoiding saying. So then, yeah, I told him, and we prayed and all that stuff, and it just continued day after day after day. And the thing is, in the UK, in the NHS, they'll say, don't call the GP or, look for help until it's been like 10 continuous days. So literally, I went for 10 days, guys. I was spotting. It was the only thing that was kind of keeping me in comfort was the fact that it was brown discharge, and normally they would say if it's like bright red and heavy, that's when maybe something is wrong. But the fact that it was happening every single day, every time I went to the bathroom, I think I was going to the bathroom like 10 times in a day at that time, because I kept going to check, like, is it going away? Sometimes it would be more, sometimes it would be less. And yeah, it was a long time to wait. Those 10 days were a very long time to wait. And then on day 10 or 11, that's when I called the GP, and I told them, and they immediately booked me in to be seen at the early pregnancy unit. And yeah, so we went there, the appointment was at 20 to 2. I don't have this great of a memory, guys. I did keep notes of everything when everything was happening in pregnancy apps that I had, so thank God for that. But yeah, we went, and then as soon as we got there, I was so pressed. I went to the toilet, and then after I went to the toilet, I came back and went to reception, and they were like, oh yeah, can you please give us this urine sample? And I was like, I have nothing to give you. Actually, one of the receptionist people were actually quite irritated about it. They were like, when you come here, you need to know that you need to have a full bladder. I was like, go by. But anyways, yeah, so I had to drink loads and loads and loads and loads and loads of water so that I could actually pee again. And during that time, they then took my blood pressure, and I think that's the only thing they took. They took my blood pressure, and when they took it, it was really high, right? So I alluded it to two things. I thought, firstly, I've always had white coat syndrome, which is basically when I'm in hospital settings and just things that are hospital like, whether it be a dental chair, just anything that is medical. My blood pressure does go up a bit. I don't like it. I don't like needles. I don't like the smell of it. I just don't like those type of spaces. So yeah, normally my blood pressure does go up, slightly elevate, which is something to worry about and think about, especially when you're pregnant. And then also that day, we had come to the hospital for me to check if the pregnancy that I had was viable, right? So already I was on 10 when it comes to stress. So yeah, I alluded it to that. And then I remember the lady who took the blood pressure was like, why are you so stressed? You're too young to have such a blood pressure like this and all that. And yeah, and I was just like, girl, let's just get to the ultrasound. Like, okay, thanks for your advice. But yeah, then we waited and waited and waited, and then eventually we then went to the room for the ultrasound. We got the ultrasound down. It was a vaginal ultrasound, which is awkward because they stick this thing up. They actually put a condom on it, and then they stick it up, and then it was really awkward, but I was just like, this is worth it. And then they and then when they put it in, that's when we saw little flicker to show that there's heartbeat, which just melted my heart. I was like, oh my gosh, there's actually a little person in there. It was so tiny. This is at 6 weeks. It was so tiny. But then I just melted my heart. And so basically they said all was good, but the person who actually told us the rest of the results was some Zimbabwean girl actually, and she said they had also found a fibroid, but it wasn't anything to worry about. Weight was, and also it was about 1 centimeter, so it wasn't something to worry about. So yeah, that was that experience. My son is back. I'll be back. Sorry guys, yeah, mommy duties had called. Anyway, I think I told you guys the part about the hospital and everything, and now week 8. So now at week 8, that's when the nausea kicked in. Oh guys, no. Hi. You hear people talking about morning sickness, you hear people talk about nausea, but I cannot explain to you how horrible that was. Well, for me anyway. But I think, fortunately or unfortunately, I never vomited per se, but I don't know how fortunate that is, because I feel like if you're nauseous, right, and then you vomit, at least it comes out and you feel a bit better, even if it's for a short-lived moment, but you feel a bit better. Mine, there was no vomiting. It was just continuous nausea 24/7. It was horrible. I couldn't. I was so sick, guys. And yeah, the smell of like onions, food in general, but especially onions. It's like someone would have stuck them up my nose if I smelled an onion. And imagine, at this time we were living in a 1-bedroom apartment, and the living space was open plan. So there was the kitchen, there was the lounge, a very tiny space, And yeah, that's where we're living. I was in the bedroom all the time, every single day. The only time I would leave the bedroom was if we were leaving the house or I was going to the bathroom. That was it. I was literally locked up, and this was for months, because this is at 8 weeks when this started, and we only moved house when I was now 18 weeks. So for 10 weeks I just was closed up in our bedroom, not moving, not going anywhere except for outside and the bedroom. I had no time in the lounge or the kitchen. I couldn't handle it. But yeah, so that was basically the first trimester nausea bit. And you know, people told me, they were like, oh yeah, after first trimester it'll all go away. No, not for me. But yes, if you're interested in my second trimester stories, please do subscribe, put the notification bell on, because that's the next story that I'll be telling you guys. But yeah, week nine, that's when I started having, guys, excessive sweating. Like, honestly, imagine I've got all these things that are happening, next thing I must be sweating. Really? But anyways, thank God it only lasted for like, yeah, maybe a few days. It didn't last the whole week, but yeah, at least, because I wouldn't have been able to handle that for like a long time. And also I started having vivid dreams, like really, really, really weird dreams. Yeah, apparently it's a pregnancy symptom that happened. I probably had like 4 or so dreams that where I was just like, okay, this is orcs, but they all just happened within that week. I don't think I had any later on in pregnancy, but I'll check. And then week 10, so mind you, all these things are adding on to the symptoms that I've told you about. The only thing that had gone away at this point was the spotting. That's what went away at week 8 and 9, and maybe the hectic abdominal pain, but otherwise everything else, the nausea, the fatigue, all of that is still there. But you know, things are just piling on top. So yes, then the next thing, week 10, was heartburn. That's when I started having heartburn. Week 10 was okay. Week 10 it was heartburn, but then I thought, oh my gosh, this is terrible. But yeah, as we went on, I knew how bad heartburn could get. But yeah, those are stories for the later videos, so do watch them when they come out. But yeah, that was week 10. And then week 11 and 12, it was literally just, there was no new symptoms. I didn't have any new symptoms in those weeks, but it was just the symptoms that I already had were getting worse and worse and worse in those weeks. And yeah, I remember in week 12 we also had the scan, the NHS scan, so we went for that scan. And funny story, guys, they actually gave us, because they give you a printout of the ultrasound pictures, so cute and everything. Maybe it's like 5 pictures. Of those 5 pictures, I think when we got home we realized that 3 of them were not our baby. Like, it was some other woman's name on there for 3 of them. So don't know whose babies ultrasound pictures we have, but yeah, that was very funny. But yeah, thanks guys for watching up until this point. If you're interested in second trimester going forward, please do subscribe, like, share, tell a friend to tell a friend. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.